Hello people. Today I'm going to be doing something a little different. I'm going to be playing where I'm going to be showing off cards from another game and rating them on a tier list. So I play this card game competitively. It's called Montac TCG. Um, and today I'm going to be covering one or multiple archetypes, depends on if I have the time. But to start, I will be using or ranking the Life Gambler cards on a tier list. So Life Gamblers are probably the archetype that I use the most, um, besides like angels maybe. So the way live gamblers are set up is they like to roll for special effects. And while I really I'm not a fan of rolling effects. Most of the time they're net positive anyways, and there are cards that might manipulate it. So yeah, that's basically the sum up of the life gambler archetype. What they do a lot is they like to also revive their cards, and that's what I use them mostly for. Also, if you see this cursor, it's a cute little frostbeak. I made this today. I'm really happy with it. I don't know. But anyways, I will go ahead and start ranking these cards. So to start, we have probably their most infamous card. Ooh, that's not what I meant to do. We have the Life Gambler Black Jack Dragon. As you can see, it's a little blurry because I had to scale it down a bit in order to fit with this whole tier listing. But Black Jack Dragon is their main boss card. So what Black Jack Dragon does is he's a 3000 power dragon fighter, 2 timer. In order to get him out, you need a superior ace and a deck king. So what I he's pretty easy to set up. The way I use him is in a deck for Gambler Angels. And in my deck, I usually like to send those 2 cards to the perish pile pretty early so I can get them out early-ish. He can also be recurred through multiple means, but he's a very big threat because of his effect, which is this card can attack all monsters your enemy commands. Each time this card attacks, it gains 1000 power. This card wins 3 conflicts in 1 turn. This card's timer is removed. So what that means is that he is a huge pressure for the opponent. The one downside of him is that if you do end up getting all your opponent's cards, or if you attack your opponent's cards, then yeah, he's not going to be able to wound the opponent. However, the reason why he's so good is because he can clear boards pretty easily. Of course, specialty removal, turn ending, this card forces them out for sure. So this card is very, very good. The whole archetype it, has this card as their boss, and it's really, really threatening. And he's a really, really fun card. And because of that, he is definitely an S tier card. Because, you know, he forces out a guard. He forces out all the cards. He is definitely not like the best card in the game, I will say. Because like there are better cards, because you have Torosian Guard, you have all those. If there's a card that's really, really good, I'll probably put it in its own tier, like SS tier, for stuff like Guard and etc. But yeah. So Blackjack Dragon, putting that in S tier. Hold on one second. I'm going to go fetch the rest, one more card maybe, and also upscale this real quick. So, uh, okay. We are back again. That took me a little bit because I had to like replace the image because it was like really, really low quality. But here we are again. So here we have the next card in the archetype, which is probably the most important card in the archetype. This card is Life Gambler Superior Ace. So Life Gambler Superior Ace is one of the strongest Life Gambler cards. Every Life Gambler build has to run it because it's like the whole soul of the deck. Um, this card is very good, but it has a few of its drawbacks. So basically what it does is it's a class 6, it has low power for a class 6, but it's still enough. It's still enough to do enough damage. During your preparation stage, you may play one non-synergy Life Gambler monster from your perished pile. If you do, you may draw 1 card from your deck. So Superior Ace is really good because he can play your supportive ace, and supportive ace What he does is he can play a superior ace from your parish pile or from your deck. So of course, superior ace is very good for the reason that you can set up boards really, really quickly. Not only that, but he also pretty much triggers every life gambler card that happens to activate from parish pile, um, reviving from parish pile. So that includes Deck King. That includes I think Spectre 10 works when you play it. I'm not sure. I have to check the new Spectre 10 because they just got changed. But yeah, and then Ambitious Jack. He also can bring back Lucky Queen, which is a really strong card for the archetype if you're running it pure. Of course, he can bring back another supportive ace, which is like really good because it sets up your whole board, etc., etc., etc. So he's really strong, just because if you have one on the board, you have a very good chance that next turn you're going to be able to set up your whole board. However, its main drawback is that it's bricky. You want to make sure that you do not have this card in your hand at all. Or if you do, you want to have a way to unbrick yourself, whether that be something like Mutated Serpent, which I use a lot, um, or through Trojan Guard, which is kind of suboptimal. Or you want to be able to like get it out of your hand, because if you don't have Superior Ace in your deck or in your parish pile, then you're not going to be able to use supportive ace to play it, which makes it really annoying. But overall, this card is really good. It's just that one drawback. So because of that, I'm going to put that card in the A tier. So yeah, he's essential for the deck, don't get me wrong. But Blackjack Dragon is definitely better overall as a card. I mean, Blackjack Dragon can be negated. However, I'd say on its own, compared to Superior Ace, is a lot stronger. So yeah, let's get to the next card. Okay, so the next card we have here is Supportive Ace, which is equally as important to the archetype as Superior Ace, maybe a little less you could say. Basically what Supportive Ace is all about is that he revives your Superior Aces, so during a preparation stage you may sacrifice this card to play one Life Gambler Superior Ace from your deck or your perished pile. Till the end of the turn that the specialty was used, you gain 1 health point each time you play a monster from a perished pile. So Supportive Ace is good. He is essential for the deck just because he's very easy to play and he's the best way to cheat out your superior aces. And if you have it, you can also recur it through cards like Titus. You can recur it like that, and you can also recur it with things such as Superior Ace, which is probably the most useful way to use Superior Ace. If you're going to run a hybrid, probably the best engine would be to run Life Gambler, Blackjack Dragon, Superior Ace, Supportive Ace, and Deck King. And then the other cards you can run too, but you don't need them. Supportive Ace, just in general, is really strong. You can use it with Fatal Connection. It's decent with Fatal Connection, but I don't see it as worth running for my deck. But you can do it. It's fine. Supportive Ace has pretty much no drawbacks except for the fact that you can't use it when you've bricked. But that's more of a problem with Superior Ace, I would say. Still, I'd say this is on the equal level with Superior Ace since they kind of work with each other and you can't really do much without one another of them. So I'm going to go ahead and put this also in A tier with Superior Ace. Yeah. Okay. Let's go on to the next card in a second. Okay, here's the next card we have here, which is Dead King. So what Dead King does is, what Dead King is probably the most used for is for material for Life Gambler Blackjack Dragon. And I feel like his effect is actually pretty underrated. Um, Beforehand, I used to use him only as fodder for the synergy, but now I actually do power him up quite a bit sometimes. So what he does is he's a class 5, 1400 power. While you command a Life Gambler monster during preparation stage, you may play this card regardless of class. So usually you're not going to be playing Debt King as a class 5, you're just going to be playing it regardless of class anyways. He's best for that reason. probably, because you can get a free body. That's nice, and he's pretty big. And each time a Life Gambler monster is played from the Perish pile while this card isn't played, this card gains 500 power until the end of the game. Recently, I actually, what was funny is I got Deck King really high because my opponent had to use Life Gamblers against me, and I ended up getting triggers on him every time he revived the Life Gambler. But basically, the concept of Deck King is try to get him as high as possible. I ended up getting him to like 5,400 power one time, today actually. But the thing about Deck King is that sometimes it's kind of inconsistent. So I'm gonna say he's a strong card, but he needs a very certain setup to actually work well. So I'd say Deck King is good. It's definitely good because I mean you need him for a deck for Blackjack, and I'd say his effect is pretty nice. I mean it's not the best, but it's nice, and he's just being a free body at class 5 with that much power is decent. It's decent. He's a good target for class bond and things because I can also send it with other class 5s um, and get that class 5 out. In my deck specifically, I really like having Deck King because I can get class bond with Deck King and a Beowulf. So yeah, but Deck King I'd say is probably a B tier, um, or a C tier. He's kind of like in between. I'd say more of a I'm not sure. I'm gonna say B tier for now. He's not bad. It's just that he's not really that good either. I don't know. He's not bad, he's not good. He's a weird card. I'd say he's a B tier for now. I might change that later. We'll see. Okay, next card. So next card we have is Life Gambler Wild Joker. So this is the second synergy for the Life Gambler archetype. So this card is a weird case because Wild Joker is barely used for himself. He's more used as a second synergy for Blackjack. Of course, Wild Joker needs a total of 5 perished Life Gamblers, so it's a little harder to get out than Blackjack in my opinion. Um, but he is very good in general because he's just a second Blackjack trigger. Now he's not like the only way to get a Blackjack back because there's multiple ways to get Blackjack back, but I say Wild Joker is probably the easiest way to do it. Um, I'd say Wild Joker. I mean, Wild Joker can also bring back support, a superior and supportive. Usually, it's better to get a Blackjack Dragon. There are exceptions. There's a few times when you want to use him to bring back superior or supportive or whatever. But in general, I'd say he's an S tier as well, along with Blackjack, mostly because it's just Blackjack 2.0. Because all he does is revive your Blackjack usually. So because of that, he's an S tier in my book. There's no reason not to run him if you're gonna run Gambler, or not Gambler Angels, but Gamblers in general. Because he just gets you. He's just a second way to get him out, the Blackjack, to make up for the fact that it's only a timer of 2. Okay, next card we have here is Spectre 10. So Spectre 10 just got a rework, so I'm going to have to read him again just to make sure I'm doing a correct judging of the card. During your preparation stage, you may sacrifice this card to roll a 6-sided die. If a 5 or lower is rolled, you may play any cluster below or life gambler monster from your parish pile. If a 6 or lower is rolled, you may play any non-asset life gambler monster from your parish pile. Okay, so Life Gambler Spectre 10 is also really good. The reason why Spectre 10 is really good is because like you're never gonna go minus with him. He's basically a second supportive ace. If you have a supportive ace already in your parish pile, he's gonna be just a second supportive ace with the potential to also um, bring back a superior or a lucky queen or a dead king. But I think Spectre 10 is better than supportive ace, and of course it can bring back slot droid, which is really sometimes annoying, but it's a really strong, of course, option. So Spectre 10, I'd say, is a very nice alternative to running like 2 supportive ace maybe. You could run 1 supportive ace, 1 Spectre 10, although that's less consistent. Spectre 10 is just another way to recur your board getting ready. So yeah, I think this card is also probably an A tier, just because, it's more ways to get your board set up. for absolutely free, no cost whatsoever. Um, I'd say it's probably worse than Superior Ace, or sorry, Supportive Ace, just because he can't get out Superiors from deck. But once you get that done, he's more of a late game card since you're gonna be getting the Supportive Aces anyway from it. So yeah, I'm gonna put it in A tier. I think that's a good judging for it. Yeah. So next card we'll see. So here's the next card we have, that is Slot Droid. So Slot Droid is also really strong. So Slot Droid is kind of a weird card because it doesn't really fit with the Life Gambler archetype's theme, but it is really good. So it's a class 2, 500 power. During either player's preparation stage, you may roll a 6-sided die. If you do and it lands on a 5 or a 6, you may draw 3 cards from your deck. If it doesn't land on a 5 or 6, gain 2 health points. This card perishes and the current turn immediately ends. So Slot Droid, of course, you can end your turn. So it's like a budget Torosian guard. So it's really annoying in some cases. However, it is a little risky because it only has a 66% chance of succeeding. But even if it doesn't succeed, it draws you 3 cards. That's not that bad. The card in general is just really strong. For Life Gambler strats specifically, it's okay. It's not like Life Gambler specific. You can use it in any deck and you'll be fine. I'm not sure where to rank this card because I think I'm ranking these cards off of viability in general, not just in their specific decks. So I will put this card in A tier as well. Life Gamblers are a very strong archetype in general, so I think A tier is also fair for this card, but not for the same reason as the other ones, because the other ones are board setup cards. This card is a card that's just really strong. It's not S tier material because it's just a minor inconvenience in a lot of cases, but it does end turns, and it's just really strong in general. And it's only a class 2, so you can get it out really easily. Okay, now we're getting on to some of the more archetype restricted things. So Life Gambler, Ambitious Jack is a very archetype specific thing compared to the rest of the cards I've already showed. So Life Gambler, Ambitious Jack is something that you'll only want to run if you're running pure gamblers, in my opinion. I mean, you can run it in other decks, but I don't know why you would. The card reads, when this card is played from your perish pile, you may roll a 6-sided die. If you do, and the result is 5 or lower, this card perishes. If the result is 4 or lower, add 1 perished Life Gambler Tactical to your hand. So you have a 66% chance to get a Life Gambler Tactical back to your hand. And those cards include Straight 5, Life Gambler's Protection, and Fatal Roulette. So those cards are all pretty good. I'd say they're pretty nice. Ambitious Jack is good, but I wouldn't say he's that good. I'd say he's probably worse than Deck King. He's probably one of the most forgettable Life Gamblers, to be honest. And of course, he doesn't work in hybrids really. I'd say he's a good card in pure gamblers. Of course, the fact that it's a 66% chance barely matters when you have things like Queen, but I don't think it's that good. Anyways, the recurring things is very nice, of course, but um, I'd say he's just a decent card. I wouldn't say he's even necessary to run in pure Life Gamblers to perform well. Of course, I mean, you want him because there's no reason not to run him in pure Gamblers, but you don't need him 100%. So I'd say he's a C tier, but he is really good, like in general, of course. Most cards in the Life Gambler archetype are really good in general. I mean, most cards in Montac are like that, to be honest. But Ambitious Jack is probably the least good out of these, and I feel like he does deserve to be a tier below all of these cards, just because he's a lot more situational than the others. Yeah. So let's get on to the next card. So here we have Life Gambler Lucky Queen. So Lucky Queen is a very interesting card. It's probably, I don't know, it's a really strong card, but I wouldn't run it in a hybrid deck either. So it's kind of weird. I'd say it's a really good card. but I wouldn't run it in any of the decks I play because I don't like playing pure archetypes that much. But yeah, what it does is when there are one or more pairs of Life Gambler Tacticals, this card can be played from your hand regardless of class. While this card is in play, when a Life Gambler card uh, demands a die roll to activate, you may decide to uh, sorry, kind of hard because it's small text. You may decide the outcome of that die roll. If you do, send one Life Gambler monster you command to the parish pile. So that final line might sound like it's really bad, but it's not that bad for the archetype, because you can recur things really easily anyways. And a lot of cards would die anyways. Like if you're gonna use something like Life Gambler's Protection and use Lucky Queen on it, it's not that big a deal since usually you're gonna be wanting to kill both monsters instead of ending turn. I mean, you can do that, but um, yeah, Lucky Queen is a very good card. Specifically for pure decks, I would say it's better than Ambitious Shack. I wouldn't say it's an A tier card. I'd say it's a B tier card, but it is really, really strong. And if you're gonna go for pure gamblers, this card is probably the part of your win con. So maybe actually, yeah, I'd say it's an A tier. But not for the same reason as these cards. All of these cards can be run in any deck as long as you run them as an engine. These two cards need to be run in an engine. This card is optional. This card is really good in any deck. So yeah, I'd say Lucky Queen is also an A tier. Um, Even though it's deck specific, it's really strong. So yeah. Okay, here we go to the apex of the archetype. So this card is weird. Um, what it does is it says when this card is played, change the current class roll to a 6 and discard your hand. For each card discarded, add up to one non-asset Life Gambler card from your parish pile to your hand. So this card is okay. I'd say it's okay. I'd probably put it in C tier. Or maybe B tier. I'd say B tier maybe. Um, since it's an Apex, of course, it only has a timer of 1, but it doesn't have a timer removal specialty, which some cards do. Some of the Apexes do, some don't. But those that do usually are a lot better. This card is just kind of okay. In any hybrid strategy, you don't want to run this card, in my opinion, because you don't get much value out of it. And pure gamblers, he's pretty good. I want to say he's the best card that you have. You'd probably do fine if you don't include him and you include some other generic thing maybe, as long as you play faster. Um, so yeah, I'd say he's good, but he's not the best card, and he forces you to discard your whole hand, which can be a benefit now that we have things like Fire and Smoke. But I don't think he's that good. He's just okay, in my opinion. So I will put him in B tier. Yeah, that was all of the monsters of the archetype. So now I'm gonna get to all the tacticals. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Here's Life Gambler's Protection. So Life Gambler's Protection is a pretty interesting card. So the way this card works is half the time it'll give you both cards that are involved in a conflict die. And one in your card has to be a Life Gambler, and your opponent would have to discard one card, or um, the turn ends immediately. So while that sounds really strong, it is a weird case. I'd say because it's a die roll, it ends up being a very weird card. I'd say it's a really strong card in general. I wouldn't run it in my deck, but in other decks, it's definitely really good for Life Gambler decks. Um, with Lucky Queen, you can determine the die roll all the time. Which I know Lucky, he really likes to use Lucky Queen with Life Gambler's Protection to guarantee your card to kill and discard a card. I'd say Life Gambler's Protection is a B tier card. It's definitely a strong defensive option, especially versus things like OTKs. But it's not like a crazy good card, you know. It's just there. It's nice. It's nice to have. It's a nice card. Okay, next card is going to be Okay, next we have Fatal Roulette. So Roulette is a very interesting card as well. It's a card I don't actually see much of. I haven't seen this played in a hot minute. Um, so what it does is it's class 1 blue tactical, so you can only use it on your turn. During your preparation stage, select one non-synergy life gambler monster you command and one non-synergy monster your enemy commands. Roll a six-sided die. If it lands on an even number, the enemy monster perishes. If it lands on an odd number, your monster perishes. The monster that doesn't perish gains the power of the monster that perished until the end of that turn. So, Fatal Roulette is, of course, very obviously designed around using it with Lucky Queen. Um, so, what you often want to do is just use Lucky Queen, use Fatal Roulette, and just get rid of probably something that you can easily regain. And you're able to then choose one of your enemy's monsters and gain that power and just pop it, which is really nice. Of course, it's a non-synergy monster, so it does work on elders, which is actually interesting. That's actually pretty nice, but it's just right now in the meta, I haven't seen it work that well. So I think for now I'm gonna put it in C tier. I think it's decent, but I think straight 5 is better than it in general, which is the next and final card that we have to show. I'd put it in C tier. It's definitely not a bad card, because anything in C tier is still not bad. It's just something that is probably the least good of the archetype. Um, I might put no Blackjack Joker. I was thinking about moving Blackjack Joker down, but I think I'm gonna keep it there just because its use in pure gamblers is pretty good since it gets you back your Lucky Queen setup, which is really strong, and maybe will win you some games. Whereas Ambitious Jack is nice, but it's not going to always win you the game, I'd say. But yeah, all these cards are good, I would say. And yeah, our last card is going to be straight 5 in a second. Yeah, 1 second. I will get the last card, and then I'll make a summary, and then I'll also tell you where you can find all the Montac social. Okay, here's the last card, which is straight 5, which is a very weird card as well. You may only play this card if there are 5 or more life gambler monsters in your parish pile. Roll a six-sided die. If the result is 6, all monsters your enemy commands perish. If the result is 5 or lower, all life gambler monsters in your parish pile become extinct. And its second effect, add 1 life gambler card from your deck to your hand. So this card is pretty good. It's a good consistency card, of course, because of its second effect, but also with Lucky Queen, this card is very good. Of course, Straight 5 is definitely, you can tell it's not a card you want to just play and risk things. It's designed around using Lucky Queen. Unless you get like insanely lucky, you're not going to get any use out of this. The extinct keyword means that the card cannot be revived anyway, meaning that you would just lose all your recursion. Of course, you don't want to play this card ever without Lucky Queen. Um, you can recur straight 5 multiple times with things like Blackjack Joker and with Ambitious Jack. So I'd say this card is definitely an A tier card, especially because it can board wipe. It's really strong. You do need proper setup for it, and it's predictable, but you can deal with it. But I'd say it's not an S tier card, just because of course it needs some setup. It's not the best card in the world. But and yeah, that would be my ranking of these. I think this is a solid ranking. Um, in terms of, I'll go into a summary real quick. So Blackjack Dragon is just a really strong boss card. Wild Joker is just Blackjack Dragon again. But also you have some small versatility options. It's just a little harder to get out, but you have no reason to not run Wild Joker if you're running Blackjack, unless you have like a really weird reason. Superior Ace is, of course, like the heart of the deck. Of course, you can break into him, but he's good. Supportive Ace can bring out your Superior Ace, so it's obviously very good. Spectre 10 is like a second supportive ace a lot of the time. Slot Droid can end your opponent's turn, and it's just a very good generic card, not necessarily in Gamblers. Lucky Queen is pretty much the heart of the Life Gambler pure deck, along with, of course, Superior Ace. Straight 5 is the best combo card that you can use with Lucky Queen. Dead King is okay. He's definitely a nice boost, and he's able to bring out your blackjack, so he's definitely necessary for decks. Um, and his effect is okay. He's a nice free card, and he has decent stats, I guess. Um, Blackjack Joker is a good card, but it's just that he's kind of underwhelming maybe for an Apex. But he does his job. He's decent, and for pure gamblers, he's pretty good. For hybrids, I would not run him, but he's still decently strong. And then Left Gambler's Protection, strong card. Only thing is that it's just okay. It just exists compared to the other ones, which I say are really good. Um, yeah, and then we have Ambitious Jack. Ambitious Jack is strong. Maybe I put him up tier above. He's kind of like in between B and C, I'd say. Um, and then Fatal Roulette is a good card as well, but it's just like Ambitious Jack is that it just kind of exists. You can run it. But I'd say Fatal Roulette is probably the worst card of the archetype. Because Ambitious Jack I would run no matter what in a pure gambler deck, because I mean all these cards except for Slot Droid I'd say are kind of necessary to run for life gamblers. Um, if you're gonna make a pure deck, but and maybe Spectre 10, but I'd say run him now. Fatal Roulette you don't need. Ambitious Jack is just kind of okay. Anyways, yeah, that was all of the life gamblers. Sorry for my rambling. I just like to ramble a lot. But yeah, that was my coverage. You can see that there's no D, E, or F tiers. It's because all these cards are really good. All of them are. That's kind of a constant for most of the cards in Montac. There's a few exceptions. I'll say that because I don't like a few cards. And in the Life Gambler archetype, they're probably one of the best archetypes right now, or best general power level of the cards in the archetype. I wouldn't say it's the best archetype. Um, because there's some archetypes that have some really meh cards that are also really strong. So yeah. Um, so yeah, that was my tier list. I'll leave the socials to Montac's game in the links below. He has a YouTube channel. He also has a Discord where he does regular events, where he also does tournaments. He does weekly competition that I'm a part of. I'm a two-time champion of the whole competitive scene. Um, yeah, so it's a really fun game. Sometimes I complain, but you know that's just how I am. So how I am. So yeah, um, yeah. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want. And subscribe to Montac and join his Discord server.